Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the California HOSA third live session of the year. Tonight, we'll be talking about leadership and scholarships, and joining me this evening are the other state officers.
Hi, everybody. I'm Archita Padmanabhan, and I'm your state parliamentarian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jafreen Bengu, and I'm your Region 3 Vice President.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Vivian Doe, your Region 5 Vice President.
So tonight we're going to be talking about a few things, both leadership related and related to the scholarships that you as HOSA members are eligible for. So all of the work that you do in HOSA, whether it's working within your chapter or working towards a community service event or helping support the National Service Project, preparing for SLC, whatever it may be, all of these different components for HOSA are helping you be prepared to be a better health professional in the future and just to be a better leader overall. And so tonight, we want to talk about just a few components of what leadership are and different components of how you can lead better within your chapter and within your community. And I know many of you may have been HOSA members last year as well. And one of the main things that was pushed by National HOSA last year was the idea of servant leadership. And it's a very different style of leadership, and so we'll be touching on that tonight as well. And with that, I'm going to hand the metaphorical mic over to Archita to start talking about scholarships.
All right, everybody. So this is just a reminder to ask questions that you have throughout the live session on the chat bar on the side. We will get to any questions you have towards the end of the live session. So scholarships are here to used to encourage HOSA members, all of you, to continue to be leaders in your communities, in your schools, and just your chapters. So you can use the money given for scholarships for funding your educational journey. We all know that college and beyond can get very expensive, so using this money can be very helpful. So here is the list of California HOSA scholarships offered this year. We have the Cal-HOSA Merit Scholarship, the Inez Tanzer Nursing Scholarship, the Board of Directors Leadership Scholarship, and the Jacob Hefter Memorial Scholarship.
So I know the scholarship application process can be kind of daunting. So the state officers have compiled a list of tips for you to help you in the application. So first off is to make sure you read all of the requirements on STEM Premier very clearly so that you can plan out your application. Be sure to check specific requirements because for some, you do have to be a senior, and for others, you have to be entering a specific field, such as nursing. Most scholarships will also require letters of recommendations, an essay, and volunteer hours. As I was saying earlier, letters of recommendations are crucial to your application, so make sure you ask people who know both you and your HOSA story well. Make sure you ask these people a few weeks in advance so they have time to write your essay prior to the deadline. When asking for your letter of rec, always try to go in person, but if that's not possible, make sure you email them. When you ask them, also be sure to include your brag sheet or your resume so they have things to talk about in your letter.
So just to add on to what Vivian said, make sure you thoroughly research the scholarship you're applying to. Some scholarships may have specific requirements that they are looking for, so be sure to let your recommender know about those requirements before they write the letter. After they have wrote the letter, be sure to thank your recommenders for their letters and hard work. Another big part of scholarships are essays, which can really showcase who you are as a person. Before you write the essay, read the instructions and make sure you understand them before you start writing. Then you should organize your thoughts by maybe doing an outline. Try to make the essay personal so that the readers can really understand who you are as a person. And lastly, have someone read over your essay and make sure your grammar and spelling are impeccable.
And so I think Vivian touched upon this a bit earlier, but a lot of the scholarships have very specific requirements. And as Jafreen said, it's very important for you to make sure you know exactly what those requirements are so you guys can fulfill all of them beforehand. I know some of the scholarships, like one of them require for 75 hours of community service, and 4 of them have to be for the National Service Project. And so in order to log those hours and get them verified, you can use the National Tracking System. And on that note, we have 2 videos on our California HOSA YouTube page. The first of which is a video that explains how to log your activities and your service hours onto the National Tracking System. And then the second is a video that explains how you can set up your STEM Premier account. and how you can set yourself up to apply for the scholarships that you're eligible for. So check those both out on the California HOSA YouTube page, and all of that information will be up there for the rest of the year. I also want to remind you that for the service hours that you do submit, you have to upload them onto both the National Tracking System and the STEM Premier platform, just to make sure that they can be verified on both of the accounts that you have. So don't forget to do that. And then the obvious thing about scholarships is knowing when they're due. So the deadlines for the Cal-HOSA ones are March 9th, 2018 on STEM Premier. And then the national scholarship application, this year there is only one application for all of the national scholarships, and that application will be due on March 15th on STEM Premier as well. And be sure that whenever you're submitting these applications, any of these supplemental things, whether it's your letter of recommendation or your personal essays or the service hours, all of that does need to be completed and verified by your advisor by that deadline. So make sure as you're planning out how you're going to submit these scholarships that all of that work is done before those deadlines. And I did want to just quickly state, all of these scholarships, very few people are selected for the scholarships. That doesn't mean that if you did apply and you didn't get the scholarship that your work, doesn't matter as much. All of the work that you do as HOSA members, whether it's working with your chapter or working to serve the community or working to raise funds for your guys' trip to the State Leadership Conference, all of that work is very, very important. And we're very, very glad that you're doing it. So don't let the scholarship define whether or not your work was successful. If you're serving the community and you're doing good for HOSA, it's a very, very, very great thing.
Thank you very much for that message, Neil. So now we're going to be transitioning onto our leadership segment of the live session. All of us went to the Washington Leadership Academy in September, and we learned about the various factors that contribute to good leadership. We're going to share 5 significant factors that we learned with you all tonight. These factors are achieving, decision-making, influencing, managing, perceptions, and we're also going to share trust in addition. So throughout this segment, we're going to be asking you guys questions just to gauge an interest of how you guys have been doing as leaders in your communities. So please answer those questions on the chat bar on the side, and we may even feature you guys on our social media or shout you out at the end of the session.
So the first factor that we'll be talking about tonight is achieving. So achieving is all about successfully completing your goal. So what's the first step to achieving your goal? It's a set up one. So the state officer team, as well as many other teams, utilize a system called SMART goals. SMART goals are goals that are specific, attainable, realistic, and time-based. So an example of this is many chapters have the goal of fundraising. Ways to make it a SMART goal is to be specific. Specific as in you're going to raise money for the State Leadership Conference through restaurant fundraisers, car washes, and a bake sale. Make it measurable by setting your goal. In this hypothetical case, we're going to set the goal to $1,000. You want to make it attainable. A way you can do this is by basing it off of last year's numbers as well as your chapter's ability to fundraise. Make it realistic, as you do have to follow both school and district guidelines when it comes to fundraising. And lastly, make sure to make it time-based. For this case, the deadline would be March 29th, the due date for the State Leadership Conference payment. The next step in achieving your goal is to making sure everyone understands the goal and is on board with the goal. A way you can do this is by motivating and encouraging your members, allowing for proactive engagement in the process. Now that we've talked a little bit about achieving, I wanted to ask you guys a question. What's an example of a SMART goal that you have created in the past? Comment it on the chat on the side.
So influencing is the second factor that contributes to good leadership. Influencing basically means to utilize positive and continuous support to promote harmony. For example, complimenting and thanking can really help motivate others. We even found a way for you guys to practice this at your school. What you can do is write positive affirmations on note cards or sticky notes and pass them to other students. For example, let's say it's final season. Maybe you can write a note that says something along the lines of, "You got this, you're going to do great on finals," and then give it to someone. And then that person can pass it on to another person, where eventually a good portion of the students at your school receive the encouraging note. Another thing that you can do is feature members frequently in your chapter for showing leadership qualities. Sometimes we like to feature chapters on Cal-HOSA's social media pages, which is something you can do at your schools as well. It's another way to encourage and motivate others.
Thank you, Jeffreen. And with that, we're going to move on to decision making. So as you all know, whether you're leading within a chapter or you're just working within a team, decision making is a huge aspect of teamwork and collaboration as a whole. And so we want to touch upon this in a few ways. The first thing was, whenever you're deciding on something, whether it's what goal you want to work towards or what kind of solution you guys are going to use to solve a certain problem, make sure that everyone is actively engaged within the team to make sure that everyone's opinions are heard, because whenever everyone has some sort of say, some sort of input in the overall goal, everyone has more of a reason to work towards it because they know that they had a factor in deciding that overall decision. And I know in many situations, the leader or the person in charge will decide for you, but if you really encourage everyone to chip in their ideas and thoughts, it's a much more creative process, and everyone usually gets a lot more engaged behind the mission. And the second thing was, whenever a problem does come up, or if there's ever some kind of challenge that you or your team is facing, whenever you're working within a team, everyone's different strengths can be put to use in that sense, because everyone is usually good at something within your team. And so when you combine all of those strengths together, you're able to come up with a lot more creative solutions and a lot more multifaceted solutions, as opposed to what you would have been able to do as an individual. So remember that whenever you're in situations like that, work together and have everyone chip in their ideas, because in the end, that usually leads to a lot more success.
Like Neil said, it's really important that everyone's active in each decision that you make, because really you guys are trying to get a team opinion and make that into one so that you can get that project out there to make it perfect. So one thing we like to do in our state officer team, and one thing that lots of teams like to do, is to provide opportunities for everyone to share opinions. So whether it's within your little teams where you guys are meeting up in like little small groups, you guys can go around the room and maybe share one thing that you'd like to see in a project or one opinion that you have. And if you guys have a large member base like we do, you guys can take in suggestions on your social media or just like physically, and that way your members are also giving their opinions on what they want to see from you guys. So another way to really effectively make decisions, which we have found really nice to use, is to make posters or charts of pros and cons for each of our goals. And pros and cons really just allows you to visualize what can go good with a goal or project and what can go wrong with a certain project. And this way, while you visualize what can go good or what can go wrong, you can make decisions on what you really want to pursue and what you may not want to pursue. So these posters of pros and cons can be created on physical flip charts, which we kind of did at our first training, where we had flip charts and we wrote with colorful markers with whatever we wanted to do that are pros and cons. Or you guys can also do this online and share it with everyone in your team so that you guys have a physical copy of it wherever you go.
So the fourth factor that we'll be talking about tonight is managing. So managing is both team management and time management. So for team management, you want to remain respectful with your own and others' thoughts and opinions. You also want to create an atmosphere that's both harmonious and positive, because this will ensure that you can be both successful together and that you can achieve your goals. For time management, it's all about priority. So a way you can do this is keeping track of the progress of your goals and keeping track of each other. A great way to do this is using planners or calendars. And with technology now, you don't even have to go to buy one. You can utilize the plentiful free apps on your phone. The state officers love using Google Calendar, as you can always reference them on the go, as well as share them with the rest of your team. If you have any other tips for team management, make sure you leave it on the chat on the side.
So the next factor is perceptions. It deals with being able to see different outcomes of situations and coming up with the most optimal route to take. In this case, be aware of others' opinions and incorporate them into the team vision. Sometimes you may not see eye to eye with others. Open to others' ideas, and also make sure that if you're in a team, you all have the same perceptions of your goals and ideas. Now I have a question for you guys. And don't forget, we will be giving shout outs to those who answer the questions. So please comment on the chat on the side and let us know about times when you have had a certain HOSA goal but encountered an unexpected outcome.
So yes, guys, as Jafreen said, if you have anything that we talked about earlier that you want to mention, please do go ahead and feel free to do that in the comment section. And at the end of the live session, after our question and answer part of the conference tonight, we'll go ahead and share those with everyone else as well. So moving on to the next and last aspect that we'll be discussing tonight about leadership specifically is trust. And this is a very, very important part of leadership and collaboration for many people, which is why we decided to discuss it tonight. So here's an example. Let's say me, Jafreen, Archita, and Vivian are working on a project of some sort, and we each divided up the tasks. So we each have a certain part of the project to finish before we can move forward together, right? Let's say Jafreen, Archita, and Vivian all did their parts, but then I didn't come through on my end. That means I betrayed the trust that Vivian and the rest of the team had in me. And now, because we're missing a certain part of the project, we can't move forward together. So it's very, very important for you to not only have faith and trust in your team members, but that they can have that faith and trust in you as well. Because, you know, in order to really thrive as a team, you need to work together, and trust is a huge aspect of that. So make sure that you can prove to your team members that they can trust you and that you can really do the work that you commit to, so that you can keep moving forward and keep achieving your goals as a team. Is if you're a leader or you're part of the leadership team at your chapter or within your community, you have to then remember that people who are members of your delegation or members of your chapter have trust in you, and they believe that you as the leader are going to help them, whether it's, you know, setting up volunteer events for the service project or helping them prepare for the state leadership conference, or even simple things like just asking you for help. These little things that chapter members will rely on you for are very, very important. So remember that your trust isn't just between you and your team members, but it's between you and the people you serve as well. And with that, I want to just quickly ask all of the chapters and members that are on this conference tonight, if you've done any of the things that we talked about, whether it's setting a SMART goal or you know, a pros and cons chart with your team, or you did an affirmation project with your team as well, send in pictures to our social media account, and we will actually repost them and give you a shout out. So anything like that, the positive affirmations thing, we'd love for you to send them in so we can show them to the rest of the California HOSA delegation.
And this is just a reminder again that if you have any questions at all for us, you can comment it on the chat in the side, and we'll get to them very soon. So we just have a message for you guys from the state officer team and everyone in California HOSA. So most of what we all, whether we are advisors, state officers, regular chapter members, chapter officers, just anyone, most of what we look forward to is our state leadership conference, or SLC. And this is because at SLC, we have the opportunity to compete in many events that are related to the health sciences. And that really gives us a taste of what certain professions are like in reality. So for example, if you want to do the CPR first aid event, you'll get a taste of what most first responders do in the community. However, these competitions are really just the cherry on top of your HOSA experience. There's so many workshops and guest speakers that come to our conferences, or maybe even your chapters. And they really have a lot of information to share with you, and you can really absorb a lot of information and expand your knowledge. And by participating in our national service projects, which this year is NAMI, you guys are advocating for ending the stigma surrounding mental illness. And by being a HOSA member, you guys make connections with other people who are also passionate about the health sciences, just like you. I can tell you from personal experience that without joining HOSA, I would not have met so many people that have the same interests as me. So HOSA really is an organization that is designed to give everyone the chance to get opportunities in leadership. Through the lessons we learn and the memories we make and the connections we have, we all build each other up to be better future health professionals. We're more than just competitors that see each other once a year. We all are leaders that have the common goal of saving lives as future health professionals. So I'd like to remind you all, along with the team, that this is a message that you should keep in mind as you come to our state leadership conferences, as well as you can continue your HOSA journeys.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and move on to our question and answer portion of this live session this evening. So starting off, our first question from Richard Coca. Are all scholarship applications on STEM Premier? I don't exactly love that platform. Vivian, why don't you go ahead and answer that one?
So yes, all both the Cal-HOSA and National HOSA scholarships are on STEM Premier. With that being said, though, I know STEM Premier can be a very confusing platform at times. So the state officer team we have created a tutorial on how to use the STEM Premier website, as well as how to set up your portfolio. So you can see our YouTube page. Be prepared to spend a good amount of time, though, setting up your STEM Premier profile.
And the next question from a person shouting for 8 years, how can we qualify for the scholarship? So as we kind of mentioned this earlier, all of the scholarship information and the qualifications are actually written on STEM Premier. So once you go through the process of setting up your account, as we describe in the video, you'll actually be able to see which scholarships you're eligible for, and then of those, what the different qualifications are and what different requirements there are. And it's all listed out right there on STEM Premier for you. Moving on to our next question from Ice Cream. When are the results announced, I assume, for scholarships? Jeffrey, you want to go ahead and answer that one?
I'm sorry, Neil, can you repeat the question again?
Yes, it's when are the results announced for scholarships?
So the results for the scholarships are announced at SLC for the California scholarships and ILC for the national scholarships.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeffrey. Next question from the future pharmacologist. What would be considered a non-SMART goal? That's actually a very, very good question. Archita, you want to take that one?
All right. Yeah. Thank you, future pharmacologist. So it is really hard to distinguish between a SMART goal and a non-SMART goal. But really, a non-SMART goal would be something that's missing one of the aspects that Vivian mentioned. So for example, if you're missing the time-based part of it, you really don't have a time frame of when to get that goal done. So you can just say, I'll get it done soon. That's very vague as well. That's not a specific thing. So you want to really keep a deadline and make sure that you have every single part of a SMART goal really specific and clear, and keep that in your schedule so that you can really follow through with it. So yeah, that's my advice.
That was great advice, Arshita. Thank you very much. Next question from Mr. Arjo. How can I motivate chapter members to start preparing for their SLC events? Also an excellent question. Vivian, you want to take that one?
So like Archita was saying earlier, HOSA is not all about competition. But with that being said, though, a great way you can motivate your members to participate and begin preparing for their events is all of the events are skills that you're going to need in life anyway. For example, if you want to compete in first aid skills, you're also the first aid skills are also going to help you in life. So that's a great way to motivate them. Another great way is at my chapter, we started a mock SLC. So all of our students that will be competing come to actually go through their events just so they can see how exciting and how fun of an atmosphere it can be.
Thank you, Vivian, for that one. Next question, also from Richard Coca. What about when you have too big of a group? A common vision can get very messy and the creative purpose can get lost. How do you synthesize everyone's best idea? Or everyone's ideas best? Jeffrey, do you want to take that one for us?
Yes, so I totally understand what you're saying. I remember when I was a chapter officer, we had a lot of chapter officers. So sometimes things did get messy and ideas did get lost. So in this type of situation, what I would do is maybe get everyone in a big circle and then ask everyone one by one what they think. And then maybe that way ideas won't get lost and everyone would have an opinion.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Next question, also from Mr. Arjo. What are some other ways to make collaborative decisions? I can actually take this one because I discussed this earlier. So whenever you're making a collaborative decision, a lot of different things come into play. One of the main ways that I know our team as the state officer team and my own chapter, one of the things that we do is we write down all of our ideas in terms of, like, let's say we have a question of some sort, or let's say we're trying to work on solving a problem or preparing for SLC or deciding what kind of service project we want to do. We'll all kind of write down our ideas quite literally on like an index card, and then we'll pass them all to our chapter president, and then he'll read them all out loud and kind of organize them. And then from there, we'll kind of carve a creative solution that composes of everyone's different ideas. I know that's worked pretty successfully for our team. I know one of the other things that the state officer team did at one of our trainings is that we actually put up posters like on the walls, and we wrote down different things. And then from there, we composed a concise SMART goal for all of the different things we want to work on throughout the year. And the next question we'll be looking at from Sam Lynn: what can I do not to be intimidated by another leader or peer? Archita?
So that's a good question. There are a lot of seemingly intimidating leaders or peers. I would say that the first thing you should do is probably talk to them, get to know them better, because mostly when you're intimidated by another peer or a leader, you just don't know them that well. So it's always good to get to know them, find something in common with them so that you can really connect and you can really work with them more easily. Another thing is that if you find them to be intimidating because of some other issue, you can also just talk to them about that. Be open with them. It's always helpful to be open in all situations, because really the other person doesn't know that you're getting intimidated by them, and they're just going to keep doing them. So it's really important that you voice your opinions and that you get your voice out there so that they know how to treat you as well.
Yeah, that's some very, very good advice, Rachita. Thank you very much. Next question from Nocturnal Avarice: how can I, as a leader, keep my team on track towards our goal? Great question. Vivian, you want to take that one for us?
So this is such a great question. So a great way you can do this is to break up your goals into checkpoints. So earlier in the live session, I talked about our goal of fundraising for $1,000. So establish checkpoints throughout the year. So let's say in the first month, we're going to fundraise at least $200. That way you can keep yourselves and your members accountable for your goal.
Thank you, Viv. Another question from Mr. Arjo: how important is trust in making connections in your community? You know, I talked about trust in the live session, so I'll go ahead and answer this one. I think it's the most important, if not one of the most important things. If you think about the way that a team functions, right? You're working with other people, and in many situations in the health professions, you are working to better the lives of people. And so trust between individuals, knowing that you can rely on each other, knowing that you will do the part of the project or of the task that you guys are working on. All of these different components is very, very important. And when you're serving your community specifically, you know, all of those different things really come together, and your community members need to know that they can rely on you, and they do trust you to get the work done, and trust you in terms of being reliable, so that all of the things that they ask you for, or the things that you promise them, do come to fruition. So I think it's very, very important. Another question from the future pharmacologist: how do you deal with a really loud leader? You know, that's actually a very, very good question. Jafreen, why don't you go ahead and answer that one?
So a lot of times when you have a really loud leader, what happens is that maybe other people don't get to speak up for themselves or their ideas or their opinions. So maybe something that you can do is maybe take them aside and tell them, you know, I feel like other people should also have a say in this. They should be able to speak up and advocate for their ideas. And I mean, if you still have a problem, maybe you should get an adult involved, or maybe an advisor.
I completely agree. Thank you, Jafreen. Next question from Jay Martinez: how can a leader keep a team on track when one member is not putting their work in? You know, that's actually something that we come across often in many environments. So that's a very good question. Archita, how about you go for that one?
All right, so the first things first, I mentioned this earlier, you always want to be open with all of your team members. So if one person's really not putting the work in, you should really have an honest conversation with them and be like, hey, there's this thing that you got to do, and you got to do it on time. And so like really brief them about what the expectations are. Really, some people don't follow through because they don't know what to do. So be open with that. And another way is that you can keep each other on track by sending each other reminders for what you have to do. We have a group chat among the state officers where we send each other constant reminders before our deadline so that we are all on track and we're all getting our work done. And if that doesn't work, if you really can't get to the person that's not following through, what I would say is that in the meanwhile, you guys should have someone covering over the job so that like the job gets done on time and you guys are getting everything completed. But at the same time, you should also talk to a supervisor that you have so that you can really tell them what's going on and they can also be involved in helping the team member get to their jobs.
I fully agree, Archita. Thank you. And the next question we have is from Sarah Katabi. Hi, I'm a chapter president. What do my members need to know regarding how to apply for scholarships? So great question. If you look on the California HOSA YouTube page, there is actually a video that goes into detail about all of the things that you need to do to apply for scholarships and how to set up a STEM Premier account. And once you follow those first steps to set up a STEM Premier account, you'll actually go straight to your dashboard on STEM Premier. And on there, all of the information about how to apply for scholarships, what things you need to complete in order to be eligible for a scholarship, all of the different qualifications are very clearly listed on the platform. So once you help your members set up their STEM Premier account, everything is pretty straightforward from there. And another question from Sarah Katabi. It's generally known that the competitive event resources are on the National HOSA site. Where can I find the curriculum online? Vivian, why don't you go ahead and take that one?
So for competitive events, National HOSA has all of the guidelines on there. So that lists all of the expectations for the competitive events. It also lists all the sources for various tests that you may have to take for your event. The curriculum, though, is found in your classroom setting. You can use resources such as your advisors as well as your teachers.
Thank you, Vivian. And now our last question for the live session from Mr. Arjo. And I think all of us should answer this one. We'll go from Archita, Jafreen, Vivian, then I'll answer at the end. What is your guys' most favorite part about SLC? So we'll start with Archita, then we'll go down the line.
Right. So SLC is a great opportunity to meet so many new people. You really see everyone from around the state that has the same interests as you. So I guess my favorite part of SLC would really be meeting everyone from the different regions and getting to know them better.
So like Archita, one of my favorite things about SLC is meeting new people. I mean, we make connections that can last for a lifetime. And well, another thing that I love about SLC is the talent show. I absolutely love it.
So my favorite part about SLC, like everyone was saying, is just meeting everyone. As someone who I used to call myself very shy, so going to SLC and meeting everyone and finding myself in such a supportive community, a place where everyone has a common goal, that's what I really love about coming to SLC.
You know, all of them, I would echo the words of everyone else. I really, really love to meet the people that are at the State Leadership Conference. I know people come from all over the state, and everyone has a different perspective on a lot of things and a very different idea of how they want to serve in the health professions community. So when we do go to SLC and I get to meet these people, you know, you hear ideas that you've never heard of before, and you think about things very differently after the experience. And obviously the HOSA spirit, you know, everyone's very, very dedicated about, you know, showing up with their chapter and being really spirited with their chapters. But in the end, when we're at the, you know, grand award session at the end of the conference, everyone's really about California HOSA and everyone's cheering for each other and being really loud and supporting their teammates and everyone else. And I just think it's a very beautiful, beautiful thing. That spirit and that sense of community that we build at the State Leadership Conference is really amazing, and I look forward to it again this year. And now we'd like to go ahead and give a few shout outs to the people that mentioned in the comments the SMART goals and things like that they came up with. So we're going to start off with Sam Lynn, who said, after 1 hour of nursing intervention, the patient will verbally state that his pain level is between 4 and 6 out of 10, which is a very, very great way to, you know, set up a SMART goal. You're working with a patient as a nurse, and after a certain period of time, so the time is very clear, it's very measurable in terms of the way that the scale works, right? They want to be between a 4 and 6 out of 10. So that's a very, very great way to establish a goal in a very unique environment, right? When you're actually working with a patient. So that's a very, very great SMART goal, Sam. Thank you for sharing that with us. The next one from Nocturnal Avarice. I want to reduce my LDL cholesterol by 20 points within the next year. Goal, very, very well put together. And I think it's a great way to show, like taking care of your own health. That's a great thing, Nocturnal Avarice. So thank you for sharing that with us. And another one from a person shouting for 8 years. I will take notes on 2 chapters for AP Comp Sci by 9 p.m. today. So again, it's very, very clear about what you need to do and about how long it's gonna, by what time you want to have it done and exactly what things you need to do. So again, a very, very good SMART goal. And again, this is a great example of how SMART goals don't have to be, super big for like a huge project. It can be as simple as something, setting up a SMART goal for doing a homework assignment. These little things that you do every single day, if you use SMART goals and you use this system to set them up, it's very, very easy for you to accomplish the tasks relative to not having a goal set up in the first place. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close off the Q&A session and move on to a few reminders and things like that we have. So Vivian, you want to take on?
So again, thank you guys all for all of your questions. We hope we were able to answer them. If not, feel free to reach out to any of your state officers. So for updates and reminders, like we were talking about earlier, scholarships are due on March 9th. And if you have any trouble or questions about the STEM Premier platform, please reference our video on our YouTube channel that will show you how to set up your profile. State officer applications are also now up. They're on our Cal-HOSA.org website. These are also due on March 9th. Jeffreen mentioned earlier that one of her favorite parts about SLC is a talent, no talent show. So if you want to participate in this, don't forget to submit your audition by February 22nd on the Cal-HOSA.org website. Along with that, if you would like to sing or do a musical rendition of a patriotic song for any of our sessions, submissions are also due on February 22nd on the Cal-HOSA.org website. For recognition events such as the National Service Project or Barbara James Service Award, your hours have to be tracked through the National HOSA tracking system. If you have any questions on that, there's also a video on our YouTube page on how to do that.
So please remember to input your NAMI hours. This year, California HOSA's goal is to have a total of 7,000 hours. This may seem like a lot, but if we all work together, it is definitely within reach. Remember, we have over 7,000 members. So if we all put in just 1 hour, we can definitely accomplish our goal. This year, we will be showcasing region boards with pictures of the different chapters at SLC. So if you would like to be on the board at SLC, please send in your chapter pictures with your chapter name and all social media usernames to our secretary, Amanda, at amanda.calhosa@gmail.com.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us tonight for the 3rd live session of the year for California HOSA's description on leadership and scholarships. We hope we were able to answer your questions and give you guys meaningful information for you and your chapters. With that, thank you so much and good night.